Hello to you all and welcome back to the first of my Christmas content this year. I decided to kick things off with one of my favourite episodes of Family Guy, which is also its best festive episode without a doubt and arguably the strongest in its already solid Road to stories, which sees Brian and Stewie go off and travel somewhere. So with all of that out of the way, let's dive into this episode and review Road to the North Pole, shall we? Right from the opening credits, it is clear to the audience how much festive inspiration went into the thought process behind this episode, as a lot of images on screen pay homage to famous Christmas movies and other festive pop culture, while the narration from Seth MacFarlane's real-life father across the episode pushes the further family values which are usually exhibited with the holidays, while adding another fun layer to this special. A lot of his dialogue and general interactions with the spectator is really amusing too. While some might argue the opening song is out of place with the greater plot to the episode, I actually think it does a lot to set up the whole story and basic character interactions. Think about it, you've got all the residents of Quahog listing everything they want for Christmas, which just highlights the greed and how much they take the festivities for granted. While Brian's commentary and cynicisms is a good way to interplay the conflict to the episode earlier on. He's a skeptic who thinks all these demands are obsessive. And as we see later on in the episode, he doesn't believe in Santa Claus either. This fun, goofy Christmas song does so much good to subtly build up to the larger plot. Once finally in the episode, we cut straight to Stewie, who is keen to meet Santa Claus, which is actually so great. We've had the setup via the song, and now we can get straight into the crux of the episode. Often there's a load of unnecessary waffle in the opening set piece, but here, now that the episode is in full swing, we're straight to Stewie and Brian, which is definitely the right way of doing things for sure.
And I want a Charles in Charge lunchbox, and I want a Magnadoodle, and a new Uno game on the cause I lost the Draw 2 card.
In terms of opening up the travel element of the episode, that too doesn't take long. So Brian accidentally upsets Quagmire's niece, who really isn't very well. The Griffin family head over to comfort them, which pushes Brian to take Stewie to a fake North Pole. This is fine, it has the very typical Family Guy dark humour and it works as a plot tool. I can see why Quagmire's house would be the last place Brian would want to go to at the moment. I had to be so careful in wording that to keep YouTube happy. So he and Stewie head off together, Stewie believing they're going to meet the real Santa Claus so he can end his existence. I actually love the fake Santa's village. It just seems too accurate to real life in my view. I could very easily believe a place like this would exist in the real world. Some cheap rundown piece of rubbish event held for children, which is probably way overpriced too. Definitely a fun asset here. Now, Stewie's motives for going to the North Pole is to remove Santa's life force and terminate him. It's a dark plot point, but one which does make sense for someone like Stewie. My small gripe is that I would argue this plot point would have made more sense a few seasons earlier than when it first aired. The Family Guy cast get massively flanderized as the series progresses. Stewie in particular has become a whole lot less evil in a traditional sense. He's not exactly a saint now, but he isn't the same character he is in the first few seasons. I think they just about get away with it here. I mean, it's a minor criticism to a great episode. The sort of early on conflict is whether or not Santa exists in this universe. Stewie, being a child, believes wholeheartedly that he exists, along with SpongeBob SquarePants. But to an adult like Brian, there is no such thing, and Stewie is putting him in such a difficult position. I can understand why Brian would cave in this instance and say there isn't a Santa, which essentially leads to a bet between the pair of them about whether or not they will be able to find the North Pole and Santa. The overall jokes in the journey to the North Pole are generally quite funny, but I do think this section of the episode could have been trimmed slightly. Not a big nitpick, but this way there's more time to be spent at the real workshop. Now, I love the introduction to Santa here. The huge screw the audience joke and juxtaposition of Santa welcoming Stewie's offer of no longer existing is excellent. It's such a dark way of looking at Christmas and seems to be a plot point only Family Guy could pull off. As the opening song proved, the glaring issue here is consumerism and selfishness. It has wrecked the season of goodwill, and highlights how the meaning has changed over the years. It's no longer about sharing and caring. The darker tone is visualized via the horrendous conditions at the workshop. The place is desolate with corrupted elves and feral reindeer. It's the least happy and friendly place on Earth, but everyone on Earth caused it. Greed broke this idea. This point is worsened by the reveal that Santa will fall from mortality if he attempts to deliver the presents this Christmas. Which leaves Stewie, Brian and the rest of humanity in a difficult position. Everyone expects a stocking stuffed with presents, something they clearly don't deserve. It's the right gateway into Stewie and Brian becoming Santa and delivering presents. They're not wanting to let the whole world down. Look, I know the delivery has to happen for Stewie and Brian to experience firsthand just how horrible it is now, but I don't think the world deserves their attempt at this point. The actual attempt at a delivery is amazing. The scene just worsens, but at such a good pace. The chaos essentially snowballs out of control, and it's hilarious. Clearly, they are so bad at this. Like, they were unable to deliver one house successfully. Instead, they physically hurt a whole family and end up in a terrible position. And personally, I love that they give up on the whole thing after attempting to do one house, ignoring the rest of the world. They can't even get the right child a baseball bat. It's just so good.
This was one house. We've been here for an hour and a half. An hour and first of all, we're not even Santa anymore. This has been a home invasion. But an hour and a half, Brian. It's going to be light in 6 hours, and we have to deliver to the whole rest of the world.
I think Brian's speech to the world is the right way to resolve and close out the episode. I think it's a bright way of addressing the problem. The world is just too selfish.
He's been bludgeoned by years of greed and avarice. The workload of filling our Christmas lists has overwhelmed him. And at the rate he's going, he may not make it another year. But there's a way for us to help him. If all of us everywhere can just cut back our demands and ask for only one Christmas present every year, there may still be hope.
So, either happily accept one gift from Santa Claus every year, or possibly lose Christmas. The Deathly Ill Santa helps to visualize and illustrate this point to everyone who's watching. This is just how bad it's all gotten now. The one gift is a solid solution, and is surprisingly kind of a resolution for this show. Well, that's just my thoughts. I would love to hear what you all think of this episode in comments down below. If you enjoyed what you saw and would like to stay up to date with my latest content, then please hit that like button and subscribe. With that, I hope your Christmas is better than Jessica Biel and Megan Fox, wearing nothing but their socks and 12 kegs of beer. See you all soon.